Resident Evil 4.
Long before Leon Kennedy arrived in Spain, something ancient lived beneath the mountains of Valdelobos. No one knew where it came from. It was known as Las Plagas. Unlike the viruses responsible for previous biological disasters, Las Plagas was a living parasite. Once introduced into a compatible host, it could attach itself to the nervous system and gradually take control of the body. But the infected did not become mindless zombies. They remained alive. They could speak, use tools, operate machinery, and retain skills learned before infection. They could still appear human from the outside, but the person inside was no longer truly in control. Centuries before anyone understood its biology, a man named Osmund Saddler discovered the remains beneath Valdelobos. Adam believed he had found something divine. To him, the parasites were sacred insects left behind by God. He believed Las Plagas offered a solution. If everyone shared the same consciousness, there would be no disagreement, no loneliness, and ultimately no war. Adam began spreading his new faith. His followers willingly accepted the parasite, believing that surrendering their minds would unite humanity and create paradise on earth. That day, a religion was born. Its followers called themselves Los Iluminados, the Enlightened Ones. Los Iluminados did not intend to remain as a small religious movement. Its followers believed every living person deserved the blessing of Las Plagas. As the cult expanded across Valdelobos, it eventually drew the attention of the Salazars, who ruled the region from a massive castle. They understood immediately what would happen if Los Iluminados succeeded. So the first Salazar Castellan took up arms against them. The cult was defeated. Its followers were driven from the region, and the surviving members of the Saddler family were banished to a nearby island. The Salazars sealed the caverns, buried the passages, and closed every known route leading to the Las Plagas underneath the castle. From that moment onward, every generation of the family became guardians of the seal, and ensured the Las Plagas never reached the surface again. Across the water, the exiled members of Los Iluminados preserved their faith, believing the Salazars had stolen the divine gift promised to them. Years became decades. Decades became centuries. The villages returned to normal, and the story of Las Plagas slowly faded into legends. But the cult never truly disappeared. By the beginning of the 21st century, only one heir of the Salazar family remained, Ramon Salazar. Ramon was born into a dying family. He was physically frail, frequently ill, and expected to inherit an enormous responsibility while still extremely young. During his childhood, Osmund Saddler returned to Valdelobos. He was the latest prophet of Los Iluminados, and a descendant of the same family the Salazars had banished centuries earlier. Saddler did not approach the castle as an enemy. He presented himself as a religious healer, a man capable of providing comfort, purpose, and salvation to a frightened child. Over time, he gained influence over Ramon and became his spiritual guide, and eventually something resembling a father figure. Saddler taught Ramon a very different version of his family's history. The first Salazar had not protected Valdelobos. He had persecuted innocent believers. He had stolen the sacred body of Los Iluminados and imprisoned it beneath the earth. The Salazar family had spent centuries protecting a terrible sin. Ramon became ashamed of his own bloodline. He believed releasing Las Plagas would correct the mistakes of his ancestors. The final guardian of the seal, Ramon, pledged himself to Los Iluminados and ordered the ancient caverns beneath his castle reopened, believing it was an act of redemption. Workers from the nearby village were brought beneath the castle. Most had no idea what they were searching for. They were simply told to excavate the ruins. After centuries underground, the remains of the parasites had hardened inside ancient mineral deposits and looked more like fossils. For a moment, it seemed like the Las Plagas were dead. Then the workers began falling ill. When the remains were disturbed, microscopic spores were released into the air. The miners breathed them in without realizing it. Inside the workers' bodies, Las Plagas began growing again. The infected miners became the parasite's first new hosts in centuries. For Saddler, the excavation had worked, but infection through airborne spores was too slow, unpredictable, and impossible to control. Los Iluminados needed a more reliable method. Using the resources of the Salazar family, the cult expanded the nearby island into a research complex. Specimens recovered from beneath the castle were transported there, and scientists began examining how Las Plagas connected to the nervous system, how the parasites communicated, and why certain specimens could influence others. Eventually, the researchers learned to cultivate plaga eggs. Instead of waiting for someone to inhale spores, the cult could implant an egg directly into a host. Once it hatches, the parasite will attach itself to the nervous system and begin maturing. Ordinary hosts carried subordinate plagas. These parasites preserved useful skills, but gradually destroyed the host's independence. The infected humans became known as ganados, a Spanish word commonly used for livestock. That name revealed exactly how Saddler viewed them. The researchers also studied stronger superior specimens, capable of preserving more of the host's intelligence. These superior plagas were reserved for important members of the cult who needed to think, command others while maintaining their personalities. And above them all stood the dominant plaga, carried by Saddler himself. It allowed him to influence the entire colony and established him as the biological centre of Los Iluminados. Among the deposits recovered beneath the castle was one specimen unlike the others, a small parasite preserved inside a piece of amber. The specimen became known as the Amber. Before Los Iluminados took control, Valdelobos was an isolated but functioning community. Its leader was Vitoris Mendez. Mendez served as both village chief and religious priest. He taught local children, recorded the villagers' concerns, and attempted to improve life within the region. For a time, Valdelobos even began opening itself to limited contact with the outside world. New equipment improved fishing, and ironworks produced better tools as the community slowly modernised. Then black-robed missionaries arrived from Salazar Castle. They preached forgiveness, unity and relief from the suffering of a mysterious illness using Las Plagas, through a tragic combination of religious deception and biological brainwashing. The man who once protected the village eventually became one of Saddler's most loyal servants. Mendez received a powerful plaga that allowed him to retain his intelligence and authority. Through him, Los Iluminados gained control of the entire community. Villagers were implanted one by one, and their church quickly became a centre of worship for Saddler. From a distance, daily life appeared to continue. But the community was beginning to collapse. Anyone who entered Valdelobos from the outside was treated as a threat. Lost travellers were captured. Hikers disappeared in the mountains. The village had become Saddler's first colony. Los Iluminados wanted to see how far Las Plagas could push a living body. One infected subject continued growing far beyond normal human limits. Within months, it had become large enough to consume entire animals and lift equipment no ordinary person could move. The creature became known as El Gigante. Other subjects developed enormous strength, but lost the ability to distinguish enemies from allies. Their eyes were sewn shut to prevent them from attacking everything they saw. These blind berserkers became Garradors. Beneath Salazar Castle, a researcher named Isidro Uriarte Talavera pursued even more radical experiments. He believed insects represented a more perfect form of life. They possessed natural armour, extreme mobility, and the ability to survive conditions that would kill an ordinary human. Using Las Plagas and the strange black liquid found beneath the castle, Isidro attempted to combine these qualities with the human body. The early results became the novistados, large insect-like creatures capable of flight and near-perfect camouflage. Isidro then attempted a full fusion between human and insect. The experiments produced two heavily armoured guardians. One became known as Pesanta. The other was Isidro himself. After transforming his own body, he became Ramon's personal executioner, Verdugo. But the island laboratories produced the cult's most disturbing experiments. Researchers began implanting several parasites into a single human host. The plagas inside its body began functioning like additional organs. As long as even one parasite remained alive inside its body, the creature could continue rebuilding itself. The result was called Regenerador. Some later developed hardened spikes and became known as Iron Maidens. Los Iluminados was no longer merely spreading an infection. It was designing bioorganic weapons. But the cult needed someone with experience studying advanced biological organisms. Eventually, Saddler found a researcher who had been born in Valdelobos and had once worked for the largest pharmaceutical company in the world. His name was Luis Serra Navarro. Luis had been raised by his grandfather in a small cabin near the village lake. After leaving the region, he studied at a university and eventually became a police officer in Madrid. His career later led him into biological research and eventually into the employment of the Umbrella Corporation. Luis's work inside Umbrella gave him valuable experience with parasites and biological weapons. Eventually, he returned to his childhood home. By then, Valdelobos had changed. The villages Luis once knew had become ganados, and the islands had been turned into a biological research facility. Saddler offered him access to an organism unlike anything Umbrella had created. For a scientist like Luis, the opportunity was difficult to refuse. He studied its life cycle, its connection to the nervous system, and methods of suppressing or destroying it. His studies revealed that an unhatched Plaga egg could be destroyed with an antigen. Even then, the procedure had to be completed before full maturity. Once the Plaga completely assimilated with the host, removing it would be fatal. Luis developed suppressants capable of buying an infected person more time. He preserved the removal equipment inside his island laboratory. But the longer Luis remained on the island, the harder it became to ignore what his work was supporting. When the cult was preparing to use his research far beyond Spain, Luis began looking for a way out. And he began gathering evidence of everything Los Iluminados had created. Then he discovered the amber. Luis realized the specimen could become even more powerful than Saddler's Parasite. He also understood that anyone who obtained it could begin the entire nightmare again. But it was his only ticket to survival. Luis stole the specimen and secretly contacted someone outside Valdelobos, a woman identified only by the initials, Ada Wong. In exchange for the amber and the cult's research, Ada would help Luis escape, but Ada was not working alone. Behind her stood a man collecting the remains of Umbrella's research and searching for the next generation of biological weapons, Albert Wesker. Wesker understood what made Las Plagas valuable. Umbrella's zombies were dangerous but difficult to control. Ganados were different. They could communicate, use weapons, and operate as an organised force. But Wesker's true objective was not an ordinary Plaga. He wanted the amber. He sent Ada Wong into Valdelobos to retrieve it. Her mission was to contact Luis, recover the specimen, and leave. At the same time, another outsider had already entered Saddler's organisation, Major Jack Krauser. Krauser had once served the United States and trained Leon S. Kennedy. In 2002, he participated in the classified Operation Javier, and nearly everyone under his command died. The government buried what happened, and to Krauser, the lesson was clear. Loyalty and order meant nothing when governments would sacrifice their own soldiers when it became convenient. Only power could protect him. That belief eventually led him to Los Iluminados. Unlike the villagers, Krauser joined willingly. Saddler offered him strength beyond the limits of the human body. To prove his loyalty, Krauser helped carry out the cult's most important mission, the kidnapping of Ashley Graham. Ashley was the daughter of the President of the United States. Saddler understood that openly attacking America would end with the destruction of Los Iluminados. Instead, he planned to infiltrate the country from within. Ashley would be kidnapped, implanted, and eventually allowed to return home. Once her parasite matured, she could be used to infect or influence the president and those closest to him. Saddler only needed control over the people running the United States. Krauser helped abduct Ashley as she left her college campus, and she was secretly transported across the Atlantic by ship. The president's daughter had vanished. American intelligence received reports of a possible sighting. Rumours suggested the president's daughter was being held somewhere in an isolated region of rural Spain. With no time to waste, the US government dispatched one of its most trusted agents to investigate. His name was Leon S. Kennedy. When intelligence connected Ashley's disappearance to Valdelobos, Leon was sent to investigate. 2 local police officers drove him deep into the mountains. During the journey, they mentioned that several people had recently disappeared in the region. Local authorities assumed they had become lost. One of the officers left the vehicle for a pee but never returned. Leon followed his trail to an old hunting lodge. Inside, he encountered an elderly villager. The man appeared human, until he attacked. Leon defended himself but immediately noticed that this was not another Raccoon City zombie. The villager had used a weapon and attacked with purpose. Inside the lodge, Leon found evidence connecting Ashley to the region. The intelligence had been correct. She was somewhere inside Valdelobos. Leon continued toward the village square, where he discovered the missing officer tied to a burning stake. Within seconds, the entire community turned against him. They climbed through windows, raised ladders against buildings, and coordinated their movements to trap him. Then a masked villager carrying a chainsaw joined the attack. The entire village was closing around him. Every attacker suddenly stopped. The villagers lowered their weapons and walked toward the church without explanation. Leon had no idea that Ada Wong had rung the bell to redirect the colony. From his perspective, the villagers had simply abandoned the fight, leaving him alone in the village square.
Where's everyone going? Bingo?
Leon continued searching the region and eventually found a prisoner beneath an abandoned building, Luis Serra. Luis introduced himself as a former police officer and claimed to know where Ashley was being held. Before Leon could question him further, Vitores Mendez entered the room. The village chief overpowered Leon with almost no effort. When Leon awakened, Los Iluminados had implanted a Plaga egg inside his body. He was now infected with the same organism growing inside Ashley. Leon and Luis escaped their restraints, but Luis disappeared before explaining what had happened. The trail toward Ashley led across the village lake. Beneath its surface lived an enormous plaga-infected creature known as Del Lago. The cult had fed captured outsiders to it, including one of the police officers who escorted Leon into the region. When Leon attempted to cross the water, the creature attacked his boat. After a violent struggle, Leon killed it. But his own infection was beginning to worsen. He coughed up blood, collapsed, and experienced his first vision of Osmund Saddler. Through the Parasite, Saddler welcomed Leon into the colony. When Leon awakened, several hours had passed. He continued toward the village church, defeating El Gigante and recovering the insignia needed to open the entrance. Inside, he finally found Ashley Graham. Ashley was frightened and exhausted, but alive. Leon identified himself as an American agent sent by her father. Then Ashley revealed that her captors had injected something into her neck. Both of them were now carrying Las Plagas. Saddler appeared inside their minds, using the parasites to communicate with them from a distance. The Plagas were still immature, but as they developed, Saddler's control would become stronger. However, Saddler could not simply let them escape. Ashley was meant to return home only after her parasite had fully matured. If Leon brought her back too early, doctors could discover and remove the Plaga before Saddler gained control. Leon would also expose the cult and warn the United States government. So Ashley had to be recaptured and Leon had to be stopped. The rescue had become a race against time. Leon needed to escape Valdelobos and remove both parasites before either of them lost control. Leon requested immediate extraction, but worsening weather delayed the rescue helicopter. He and Ashley were forced to escape Valdelobos on foot. The Ganados pursued them through the region until they reached an isolated cabin. Luis was waiting inside. Before Leon could demand answers, the cabin was surrounded. Ganados broke through the doors and windows in waves, forcing the two men to fight side by side. They escaped, but Ashley collapsed soon afterward. Her parasite had been implanted before Leon's and was developing faster. Luis finally explained the truth. The blood hallucinations and loss of physical control were all symptoms of Las Plagas. Medication could slow the process, but only specialized equipment could destroy the parasites completely. That equipment was located inside Luis's island laboratory. Before Leon could learn more, Luis left to recover his research in the amber. The road out of the village led through a checkpoint controlled by Mendez. Leon and Ashley fought their way through, but the village chief continued pursuing them alone. Leon sent Ashley ahead and confronted Mendez inside an abandoned slaughterhouse. The battle set the slaughterhouse on fire. His body extended beyond human limits as he transformed into a towering insect-like creature. Even after losing the lower half of his body, Mendez continued pulling himself through the rafters in pursuit of Leon. Eventually, the parasite could no longer sustain the damage. Mendez died as the burning structure collapsed around him. The man who had once protected Valdelobos died as the creature responsible for its destruction. Leon reunited with Ashley outside as their road ahead led them to Salazar Castle. Its halls were occupied by black-robed zealots. Inside, they were welcomed by Ramon Salazar. Ramon proudly demanded that Leon surrender Ashley. He openly admitted that she was essential to Saddler's plan to infiltrate the United States. Leon refused.
No thanks, bro.
From that moment onward, Ramon used the castle itself against them. Zealots attacked from hidden passages, and creatures created through years of experimentation waited inside the dungeons. Leon encountered a Garrador chained beneath the castle, and survived by targeting the exposed parasite growing from its back. He and Ashley fought through the fortress, but her condition continued worsening. Near the courtyard, the Plaga briefly took control of her body. Ashley raised Leon's knife against him before regaining control. Horrified by what she had almost done, she ran deeper into the castle. While searching for her, Leon encountered someone he believed had died in Raccoon City. Ada Wong. Leon demanded to know why she was there and who she was working for. Ada avoided both questions. She warned him that Ashley's condition was becoming critical, then disappeared. Leon eventually found Ashley and convinced her to continue, but Ramon's forces separated them again inside the Grand Hall. Ashley escaped into the castle library, armed with nothing but a lantern capable of temporarily stopping the armaduras roaming the halls. She found a route back to Leon and helped free him, only to be captured moments later by one of Ramon's zealots. Ashley was carried toward the upper castle as Leon followed. While Luis Serra was already fighting his own battle beneath the fortress, Luis had the medicine needed to slow Leon and Ashley's infections. He also possessed the key to his island laboratory and had stolen the amber from Los Iluminados. After defeating Verdugo, Leon reached the castle's underground mines and finally reunited with him. Luis administered these suppressants, buying Leon more time. Together they travelled through the excavation tunnels beneath the castle. They fought cultists, escaped 2 El Gigantes, and crossed the collapsing mines by cart. During the journey, Luis admitted that he had worked for Los Iluminados. He had helped Saddler study the Parasite, and his research had contributed to the creation of the creatures Leon encountered throughout Valdelobos. Luis had told himself that scientific discovery mattered more than the people funding it. Umbrella had proven him wrong. Los Iluminados had proven it again. This time Luis wanted to stop the weapon before it left Spain, but another man had been tracking him through the castle. Jack Krauser. Krauser attacked before Luis could reach the surface. He took the amber and confronted Leon, revealing that he had joined Los Iluminados willingly. He had kidnapped Ashley and accepted Las Plagas because it offered the power he believed the United States had denied him. The fight became a test of everything Krauser had once taught Leon. Luis intervened before Krauser could finish him, but he was mortally wounded. Krauser escaped with the amber. Leon remained with Luis as he died. Luis handed over the key to his laboratory. Luis could not undo the work he'd done for Umbrella or Los Iluminados, but in his final hours he chose to fight against it. Luis Serra died beneath the same castle where Las Plagas had first been released. Leon continued his mission alone. Ashley was being taken toward the island. To reach her, Leon had to cross the castle's clock tower. Ramon filled it with zealots. Leon fought his way to the top. But Krauser had already arrived. Ashley was handed over to him and transported across the water. Ramon remained behind to deal with Leon himself. The last Salazar believed he had redeemed his family. He had released Las Plagas, restored Los Iluminados, and delivered the president's daughter into Saddler's hands. Leon shot him before he could finish celebrating. Ramon fell into the darkness below, then emerged with a massive Plaga mutation. The frail child believed he had become something divine. Leon targeted the human host buried inside the mutation. The creature collapsed, and the Salazar bloodline ended inside the castle it had guarded for generations. In his attempt to redeem his family name, Ramon destroyed it. Leon left the castle through its underground docks. Across the water stood Saddler's Island. Ada transported Leon across the water and left him near the island's coastline. Unlike the village and castle, the island was a modern military installation. Searchlights covered the roads. Armed ganados patrolled the compounds with machine guns, explosives and defensive positions protecting every entrance. Leon followed Ashley into the facility and eventually found her unconscious inside a locked holding cell. To reach her, he needed a high-level security card. The search led him through the island laboratories and into the path of the regenerators. Ordinary gunfire damaged them, but every wound quickly repaired itself. Using a biosensor scope, Leon discovered the plagas hidden throughout their bodies. Only by destroying every parasite could he stop them from regenerating. Leon obtained the keycard and rescued Ashley. He administered Luis's suppressant, slowing her infection before Saddler gained complete control. Together they began searching for Luis's removal laboratory, but Saddler was waiting near the islands and the deposits. Through the parasites, he immobilized Leon and forced Ashley to take his weapon. She resisted long enough to avoid killing him, but Saddler recaptured her and carried her toward the sanctuary. Leon followed through the island ruins, where Jack Krauser waited for their final confrontation. Krauser had transformed the area into a battlefield filled with mines, traps, and automated weapons. Krauser believed Leon's loyalty and compassion made him weak. Leon saw what Krauser had become. Operation Javier had given both men reasons to distrust the government. Krauser responded by deciding to only protect himself, while Leon responded by continuing to protect the people who would otherwise be abandoned. The Plaga transformed Krauser's arm into a massive organic blade and shield, but beneath the mutation, he still fought using the techniques Leon knew. The student survived the teacher's final test. Krauser died with the power he had spent years pursuing. As Leon continued toward the sanctuary, a helicopter piloted by an American soldier named Mike arrived to support him. Together, they broke through the island's final defences. Then, Novistadors attacked the aircraft. The helicopter crashed and Mike was killed. Leon had no time to stop. Ashley's parasite was nearly mature, and Saddler was waiting at the summit. Leon reached the sanctuary and found Ashley unconscious upon an altar. The parasite inside her was approaching complete assimilation. Saddler immobilized Leon through their connection, forcing his body to move against his will. Before the transformation could be completed, Ada attacked the sanctuary. Her intervention weakened Saddler's control long enough for Leon to carry Ashley away. Ada remained behind to delay him. Leon reached Luis's laboratory with Ashley in his arms. Leon placed Ashley inside first. The procedure destroyed the Plaga and severed her connection to Saddler. Then Leon collapsed. When Ashley awakened, she pulled him into the machine and activated the procedure herself. The parasite inside Leon was destroyed moments before it became too late. For the first time since entering Valdelobos, Leon and Ashley were free from Saddler's voice. But Ada had been captured and placed inside the island's industrial ruins as bait. Leon freed her, and Saddler revealed his true form. The dominant Plaga transformed him into a massive creature supported by armoured limbs, with eyes developing across its body. Leon targeted the eyes across the mutation, weakening the limbs supporting it. Saddler fell from the platform, but the parasite continued growing. Tendrils spread throughout the ruins around a single central eye. Ordinary weapons were no longer enough. Ada returned with a specialised rocket launcher and threw it to Leon. One direct shot destroyed the parasite's final defence. Leon approached what remained of Saddler, took the staff he carried as a symbol of authority, and drove it through. Osmund Saddler died inside the organism he had spent his life worshipping. Among his remains was the amber. Ada recovered it before Leon could. A helicopter arrived to extract her. Ada offered Leon a place aboard, but he refused to leave without Ashley. Before departing, she gave him the key to a jet ski hidden inside the island's waterways. The remaining explosives began detonating. Leon reunited with Ashley and raced through the collapsing facility. They reached the jet ski and escaped through the underground tunnels as fire and debris destroyed the island behind them. The village had lost its chief. The castle had lost its final ruler. Los Iluminados had lost the man holding its colony together. Leon and Ashley reached the open sea. As the sun rose above the water, Ashley thanked him for saving her. Leon reminded her that she had saved him too. The mission was finally over as they ride into the sunset. Leon documented the infected hosts and their retained intelligence in what became known as the Kennedy Report. While Los Iluminados had been destroyed, its research survived. Ada contacted Albert Wesker from the helicopter and confirmed that she possessed the amber. Then she asked what he intended to do with it. Wesker described a new age, one that would require the deaths of billions of people. Ada ordered the pilot to change direction. She refused to deliver the amber. But Wesker had prepared for that possibility. He reached the remains of the island and recovered Jack Krauser's body. Los Iluminados had previously used the amber to strengthen the superior Plaga inside Krauser, giving Wesker another specimen he could study. Years later, Las Plagas material reached the laboratories of Tricell. Tricell saw a product. The original Plaga required time to mature inside a host. That delay had allowed Leon and Ashley to remove their infections. Tricell modified the organism, creating the Type 2 Plaga. Instead of implanting an egg and waiting for it to hatch, a mature parasite could be forced directly into a host. Control occurred almost immediately. These infected humans became known as Magini. Las Plagas had entered the international biological weapons market.